Hello everybody and welcome to Back to School episode 2 and in this episode we are going to look at challenges, issuing and accepting them, and more importantly the eligibility to accept or issue a challenge. So first of all, let's have a quick look at the composition of each of the units in front of me. They are armed identically, 20 or 19 tactical marines with a sergeant armed with artificer armour, bolt pistol, power fist and artificer armor. Now the key thing here is to note where the sergeants are in either squad. So for the Imperial Fist, they're right down by the front here, and for the word bearers, they're right at the back. I've put them like this, one for a bit of fluff. I imagine that the Imperial Fist sergeant is leading from the front and the traitorous word bearer is at the back, lashing a whip to push the Marines forward to engage. So this is really, really key. We'll assume that the word bearers are charging the Imperial Fists, and Overwatch has been resolved and there was no casualties. That's fine. It doesn't really matter, although it will have a bearing later on. But for this instance, we'll say that it's not. So we've rolled the charge. They get an average. Let's say it's 7's an average, but let's say it was a 5-inch charge. Okay, so the word bearers have made it comfortably into the combat. So we'll just move them very quickly. I'll speed this up so you don't have to see me moving all the models. All right, that's done. Now, more importantly, the word bearer's sergeant is at the back here. So what we've done then, we all know the assault phase. You move your models in the amount that you've charged to maximise contact with the enemy. Always try to move into base-to-base contact with the enemy as much as possible. If you can't do that, move as close as possible. We know all this. That's absolutely fine. Now, before any blows are struck, or before any consolidation or any piling moves rather are taken, this is the time now to issue a challenge. So it's the word bearer's turn, so they get an opportunity to issue the challenge. Now they would do, but they are only locked in combat, they are not engaged. So at this point, the enemy commander has to be within 2 inches of someone either in base contact with an Imperial Fist or in base contact with themselves. And if we have a quick look here, and we are nowhere near, we're actually 5 inches away. So what we all tend to do is we're going, oh, you know, we've made it into combat. Are the 2 sergeants or the 2 praetors or whatever characters, the 2 primarchs, are they going to issue a challenge? Yeah, of course they are. And what we do is we instantly pick out the characters. You know, you're supposed to exchange models and put them close to close, but sometimes what we do, we even do this on the channel as well, we separate them off and put them on a suitably acceptable place for the models to strike each other, just for a bit of theatre and drama. But it's wrong. The word bearer sergeant cannot issue the challenge and cannot accept a challenge because although he is locked in combat, he is not technically engaged. Now you will say to me, well, you know, when he piles in at initiative 4 with his power sword or initiative 1 with his power fist in this case, then he'll move closer and he can attack. But it's specifically where the challenge is issued is where you then decide whether they can or accept or fail, or deny rather. Now the Imperial Fist, they have a rule where they have to issue a challenge. You know, so let's say, for example, the word bearer didn't issue a challenge. No, I'm not going to do whatever. But the Imperial Fist does. It still applies. The word bearer cannot attack. Therefore, the sergeant cannot be isolated into that combat and does run the risk of being cut down by the Marines if the lookout serves and the roles, the way the roles go. So that's fair enough. But it's really key. It's really important to remember that you need to be engaged and not locked to issue or accept a challenge. So I think that's really important. And I think if you look at it in wider game terms, you know, you might want to keep your praetor or your character or whatever safe by keeping it at the back of the squad if you're advancing forward onto the enemy. It does leave them vulnerable to a drop pod attack or a deep strike attack. So maybe to always guarantee getting your character into combat and issuing that challenge, if you want to, keep them in the middle, and that will more or less guarantee that they'll get in there and will be eligible to issue or accept a challenge. Now, I appreciate this is, you know, an ideal situation. A lot of times we find ourselves in games where Marines are in a massive extended line. You know, I've seen combats that have gone over sort of 12 inches in width. And if your character's right at the back and the other character's right at the back, they're probably never going to meet. the other thing to bear in mind as well is that if there is no character in the enemy squad and you've got Artificer armor, you can pretty much keep your character right at the front there and tank all of those saves on his Artificer armor. It's a little bit cheeky, and we've all done it, no doubt. But it does happen. But perhaps don't keep him right at the front, perhaps 2 or 3 mods behind, just in case the Overwatch comes in, peels out a few Marines, and the last thing you want to do is lose that power weapon or that chain fist or that power fist before it gets a turn to strike. So really short and sweet on this one. It's worth bearing in mind. We've all done that thing where we're like, the Praetors will attack each other and we pull them out of combat. But depends how you play your game. If you're a real stickler for the rules, then it's worth bearing in mind. But if you're not too worried about it and you're happy to play a friendly thematic game, then pull the characters out and get them into a challenge with each other. But it's worth bearing in mind. It does get missed every so often. I don't think it's done purposely, but it does happen. Anyway, I hope you found that really useful. Let me know if it was, please. If you've got any feedback or comments, please let me know. And if you've got any questions or answers you'd like me to address at the end of month review, then please get them to me. My email address is david@the30k. Excuse me, I can't say my own email address. david@the30kchannel.com. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.